Hello, Mark. This is your brake booster you sent me to rebuild, and sorry for the delay. The first delay was in getting the steel parts CAD plated like the original. The plating operation, the plating company held me up quite a bit. The main problem with your booster was this little guy right here, about the diameter of a dime. And this is the seal that goes at the base of the faceplate, and this is what keeps the vacuum and the hydraulic fluid apart. Somebody in the past had rebuilt your booster and had not been able to, or chose not to access the original seal, which they could have done with a little bit of effort. So they put in this non-original seal. Well, that presented a problem because I could not find this seal. And I could not duplicate it, so I had to machine the inside of the faceplate here and for a seal that I could locate, and that's what is in there now. Past that, pretty standard rebuild. The slave cylinder honed out great. Still good on the diaphragm. And trying to think, oh yes, your check valve, rebuilt your check valve, that's ready to rock and roll. So now we'll do a test. And what we got here is the vacuum gauges. The two gauges are going to go up and read the vacuum that my vacuum pump can produce. And then as the booster is activated, this gauge is going to go down to 0, and when it reaches 0, that means the booster is fully activated. Over here on the vacuum side, hydraulic, we've got the input, which is just what the master cylinder in the booster can achieve. And this gauge, it goes up and reads max pressure, and this gauge goes up and reads final input pressure. And our output is what the booster is going to be putting out, and so this gauge goes up and reads max pressure, and this one goes up and reads our final output pressure, which is a multiple of the input. In this case, it's a 2-to-1 boost ratio, so if we see 350 here, we're going to see between 600 and 900 here, and that's going to depend on the accuracy of the gauges. Now, without vacuum, we'll just pump it up, and you'll see that the input, output are all about the same. So that tells us our gauges are close enough for our purposes. And it also lets you know that should you ever lose vacuum, you do not lose braking, because the booster is always bypassing or passing fluid through the booster. The only difference is without the vacuum, it is just it makes the pedal feel require twice as much pressure to achieve the same amount of braking. So now we're going to test with vacuum. Tell you what, before we do that, this is where our vacuum is being taken off for the control. And this is a test that you can do with a vacuum gauge once you have the booster in the car. And what you're going to do is hook up your vacuum gauge here and apply the brakes. And the more you apply the brakes, the more the booster should, the more the vacuum gauge should read 0 until you've got the brakes fully applied. And that obviously is with the engine running. So now let's booster is fully applied. chuffing, which is what they will do sometimes. Which is normal. Not all of them do it. Not all of them chuff like that, but it's normal when they do. Also, we check for leaks out of our bleed screws. Nothing coming out here. We check for leaks out of the bleed hole, which is your first indication that there is trouble with the booster internally. When this thing starts to dribble fluid, it's the first of 3 seals that are separating the hydraulic from the vacuum, and it's an indication you need to have the booster looked at. But this actually can seep for quite a while and not affect the braking of the car whatsoever. Also check for leaks right here. So far so good. I think you got a good booster. Thank you for your patience waiting for me to get this done for you.